good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Toronto Airports Authority Annual Public Meeting. I'm Hilary Marshall, Vice President of Stakeholder Relations and Communications here at the GTAA. I'm pleased to call this meeting to order. To begin, I'd like to confirm that all the requirements for public notice have been met, as well as all other conditions for holding this meeting. We'll be conducting today's meeting in English, but we're also happy to address your questions in French. Our agenda today includes remarks from our chair, David Wilson, our president and CEO, Howard Ang, and our CFO and VP of Finance, Ian Clark, after which I will open the floor to questions. Off the top, I'd like to introduce Jim Fott of Laura Consulting. Jim's over here on the right-hand side. Jim is going to, as per in previous years, moderate the Q&A session later on after the presentations. Jim has over a decade of experience as a moderator of community events and will ensure that everyone gets the most out of this session by keeping us on topic and on time. If there are any members of the media here today, we just ask that you hold your questions till the end, and we'll make sure that we come around and have an opportunity to speak to you once the meeting's adjourned. I'd like to take this opportunity to advise everyone that we are live streaming this event on the internet, so if you have any issues with your name being included or if you're asking a question and you don't feel comfortable, please advise us. If you're looking for supporting materials, you can find copies of the GTAA annual report at the back of the room or at the registration desk. A digital version of the annual report was posted to our website on April 30th, 2019, and the financial statements are available online and were posted to torontopearson.com on March 20th, 2019. By way of housekeeping and orientation, the exits are behind you and to the right, and the washrooms are located across the hall. I'd like to ask everyone, please put your cell phones on silent, and the meeting will get underway. I would like to invite David Wilson, the chair of the board, to come and address the room. Thanks, David.
Thank you very much, Hilary, and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the board of the GTAA, thank you for your interest in the GTAA and for this opportunity to review the achievements of the past year and what comes next at Toronto Pearson. In 2018, we served a record 49.5 million passengers, an increase of 5% over the previous year. This growth reflects the steady rise in demand that has shaped our airport's development for more than 2 decades, and that will continue well into the future for decades to come. Toronto Pearson is a vital piece of regional infrastructure. For people across the Greater Toronto Area and throughout Southern Ontario, we provide quick, convenient access to the world. At the same time, the number of connecting passengers flying through our airport continues to rise, accounting for nearly 30% of traffic in 2018. Their decision to travel via Pearson speaks to the superior connections we provide over competing hubs and their confidence that it will be a seamless travel experience. When we see millions more passengers choosing to fly in and out of Toronto Pearson each year, it underlies that the GTAA strategy is working. The more we become a hub of choice for all of North America, the better we're able to serve our surrounding communities. This continued progress is also a tribute to the nearly 50,000 people who work at Toronto Pearson every single day, and to the dedication and pride they bring to their jobs. But as demand for air travel continues to grow, we must never lose sight of our longer-term challenges. As forecast in the GTAA's master plan, we envisage serving 85 million passengers annually by 2037. The total number of aircraft movements won't go up proportionally with that growth, as airlines are evolving their fleets to carry more people on larger and fewer airplanes. Still, we face increasing pressure to optimize our current facilities while investing strategically in further enhancements, and to do this while continuing to be a financially strong commercial enterprise. As a non-share capital corporation, the GTAA constantly reinvests in Toronto Pearson to keep pace with future needs. In 2018, adjusted net income rose to nearly $140 million compared to $112 million the previous year. This reflected overall growth in passenger traffic and a corresponding increase in commercial revenues of more than 11% to just over $500 million. These non-aeronautical revenues come from a range of sources not directly related to aviation, mainly ground transportation and parking fees, retail and dining concessions, and rent paid by carriers for check-in counters and kiosks. As Pearson's fastest growing source of income, these revenues are critical in funding the significant investments we are making in everything from additional gate capacity, new passenger amenities, and further integration of our complex baggage systems. These and other commitments are detailed in GTAA's strategic plan, which the board and management are in the process of updating to cover the 5-year period through to 2024. In the coming year and over the longer term, we will continue to enhance the passenger experience at Toronto Pearson, along with the support we provide to carriers and other partners. As always, while upholding the highest standards of safety and security for both passengers and airport employees. Equally important, we are committed to maintaining a robust financial position, increasing the GTAA's capital strength to prepare for future growth. As total revenues rose over the past year to $1.5 billion, we once again retired a portion of long-term debt ahead of schedule. At year-end, the GTAA's overall debt had shrunk by 3.8% compared to 2017. All of this further strengthens the foundation of a company that must plan ahead, not just by the quarter or the year or even 5 years, but over decades. Toronto Pearson is a major driver of economic growth. We provide the connections that help make our region and all of Canada more dynamic, resilient, and ready for the future. This global connectivity also extends into our surrounding communities. The GTAA is taking the lead on regional transportation initiatives such as the Southern Ontario Airport Network and our proposed regional transit and passenger center at Toronto Pearson, as Howard Ang, our CEO, will discuss in just a few moments. Initiatives like these are anchored in a deep sense of responsibility toward the communities we're in business to serve, and in particular, those neighborhoods that are affected directly and indirectly by Toronto Pearson's operations. The GTAA is committed to investing 1% of annual net income in support of community organizations around our region. In 2018, this translated into just over $1 million in support of 24 not-for-profit organizations that are working to advance social change in Toronto, Mississauga, and Brampton, with a focus on addressing the problem of underemployment. The airport employment zone, the region around our airport, is the second largest employment cluster in the country. But for the 2 million people living in communities near the airport, underemployment is much higher than across the Greater Toronto Area. About 43% of our immediate neighbors, despite having post-secondary degrees, hold jobs that are well below their education and skill levels. A high proportion of the underemployed are women. Many are recent immigrants whose credentials and experience aren't immediately recognized in Canada. This is an area where the GTA can have a concrete and lasting impact. Through our community investment program, the Propeller Project, we can help bring about meaningful change while fostering longer-term social and economic well-being to the region. You'll find more details on the Propeller Project in our latest annual report. There are copies available outside. Please pick one up. As we focus on social and economic well-being, the GTAA also remains committed to managing Toronto Pearson's environmental impact. Last year, we were recertified at level 3 in the Global Airport Carbon Accreditation Program, and we continually work towards the next level, level 4, on carbon neutrality. One of the many ongoing efforts in this area, I'll highlight two. First, we've adopted an internationally recognized green building standard at Toronto Pearson. All capital projects will now incorporate strict benchmarks for the design, construction, and operation of environmentally conscious buildings. And in 2018, we received the Airports Going Green Award for our program offering staff a $50 monthly rebate for carpooling, walking, cycling, or taking transit to work at least 70% of the time. Second, we've joined other aviation industry leaders in supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, a United Nations initiative to end poverty, protect the planet, and advance global prosperity. We've identified 6 goals that align with the GTAA strategic priorities, and we'll be factoring their related targets into our planning as we determine where we can have the greatest positive impact. This commitment to sustainability is a source of pride for everyone at the GTAA, and it frames all discussions of business strategy and corporate policy considered by our board of directors. The role of the board, as you know, is to provide oversight and guidance to management. Our members help set strategic priorities while collectively representing the interests of the GTAA and all of its diverse stakeholders. This year, 3 members of our board are stepping down. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank Paul Curry, Kathy Milsom, and Danielle Waters for their very valuable contributions over many years. This year, we also welcome 3 new members to our board. Peter Gregg, I think, is here. I'll ask you to stand in a second, Peter. Doug Allingham is here. Michelle McKenzie are here. And today, we elected 2 more new directors, Mark Neeb and Eric Plessman. So there's 5 directors now. Would you all just stand so that people can see our 5 new members of your board? And lastly, on the board front, my own term is coming to an end as your chair, and members elected a new chair this morning. So it greatly pleases me to congratulate Doug Allingham, who about a couple of hours ago was elected new chair of the board. Doug will be officially becoming chair at the end of this meeting. Doug brings deep experience in the commercial corporate world and in governance to his job, and that'll be critical as he assumes the chair that I've occupied for the last 4 years. So Doug, would you just rise and be acknowledged as well? Congratulations. The coming year will also bring significant transition to the GTAA senior management. Howard Eng has announced that he will be retiring in 2020 after 8 years as president and CEO. Howard's been in the airport management business for almost 40 years, and he's had a spectacular 8 years. He will have had a spectacular 8 years at Toronto Pearson. Under Howard's leadership, Pearson has experienced unprecedented growth, gaining additional 15 million passengers since he arrived here in 2012. Our airport has emerged as a global mega hub. That's a term we didn't even know about before Howard arrived, and he coined it. And in fact, he may have coined it for the whole industry. Toronto Pearson is now recognized among the 30 largest mega hubs worldwide, and we're ranked 5th in the world for international connectivity. With his hand-picked management team, Howard has helped our airport set new benchmarks in operational excellence while earning top marks for service quality. So on behalf of the board, and we'll get more of this in 2020, Howard, but for today, on behalf of the board, and I'm sure of the vast majority of Pearson stakeholders, I want to thank Howard for your vision, determination, and leadership over this 8-year period. Howard. Of course, Howard, true to form, still has a full agenda for the next year ahead. But when the board's search committee ultimately finds his successor, which is no small task, we know his wide-ranging accomplishments from growing valuable international traffic to developing an integrated transit strategy to strengthening financial sustainability will continue to bear fruit for decades to come. In closing, I'd like to acknowledge the many stakeholders whose continued support is crucial to the airport's success. Let me start with the organizations, large and small, whose commitment to goodwill keep Pearson running every day. to our 65 air carriers, Air Canada and WestJet foremost among them, which offer direct service to 175 global destinations. To NAV Canada, who is responsible for air traffic control, the Canadian Border Services Agency, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority, Peel Regional Police, and hundreds of other businesses, agencies, and organizations that support us every single day. We also enjoy solid partnerships with all levels of government, federal, municipal, and provincial, including the mayors and council members of Brampton, Mississauga, and Toronto. To these diverse stakeholders and to everyone here today and across our communities, thank you for your engagement and support over the past year. And thank you as well for sharing the insights and perspectives that help us meet growing demand while balancing expectations among the various constituencies that we serve. Lastly, I want to express my admiration to the 1,800 employees who work for the GTAA itself, and the larger community of nearly 50,000 who work at the airport every day, who work together every day to realize Toronto Pearson's vision to be the best airport in the world. During my time on this board, I've seen the technical skills, depth of experience, and plain hard work that go into operating such a vast and complex piece of infrastructure. And I appreciate why so many of you proudly joined the grassroots movement to serve passengers. I'm a member of the Toronto Pearson team. As you maintain and expand our facilities, or improve our processor system, or just guide passengers on their way, you help connect our communities and all of Canada to future opportunities. And for that, your neighbors next door and nationwide, we owe you a debt of gratitude. So thank you all who have helped the airport function every day. I'm grateful that I've played a small part in all of this and look forward to seeing what comes next. Thank you very much.
I was remiss in not introducing a special guest we have today. Chair John Henry from the region of Durham is here. If you just give us a wave. Thank you for joining us. It's very kind of you. And now I'd like to introduce Howard Eng, our President and CEO.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank Hillary for the introduction, David for the nice things he has said, and for whomever doctored that picture of me so that I have less white hair up there. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see so many people that are interested at the airport and come join us in our annual meeting. David talked about the importance of Toronto Pearson as an economic engine for the region and for all of Canada, and how the growth we help create here also how the growth of the region also drive the growth of our airport. Canada is a trading nation, but what we trade has been changing over the years. We start by exporting things like grain, iron ore, lumber, which require ships and large rail cars. We still do that, but many of the export and other companies that's doing it are changing. Now we're looking at exporting electronics, precision parts, and products that need to get to the customer fast. And not just that, with the growing knowledge, trade in knowledge and services, people in Canada, both the engineers, investment bankers, people that work in artificial intelligence, biotech, they need quick, convenient connections to their clients, partners, and investors around the world. At the same time, professionals from overseas have to reach Canada easily, not only to sign a deal, but actually probably going back and forth as they work on projects in Canada. But this is just not for business alone. Millions of tourists fly through Pearson each year to explore both our regions, whatever to have to offer, but also to go through Pearson to the rest of Canada, to play like in the Rocky Mountains. And even the tens of thousands of foreign students who attend Canada's college and university. That is almost like us exporting our knowledge industry around the world. Today, as David mentioned, we have regular nonstop flights to over 70% of the world's economy. We have added new connections and frequencies as Canada has made new trade agreements, and as more and more Canadian companies see opportunities to grow beyond the Canadian border. It's worth looking at a map of Canada and kind of remind ourselves where Pearson is. At 44 degrees north, we're actually south of many US cities. This position, this airport and region as a continental gateway and an efficient access point to the whole Northeast economic mega region along the US-Canadian border, as well as convenient access to the USA. All of this connectivity translates into employment and economic growth for our region. That's why we have a simple message to our stakeholders, yourself. It's on the cover of our annual report, Count on Pearson. Count on our airport to connect Canada to the world and the world to Canada. Count on us to help create jobs and boost imports and exports, to attract tourism and investment to our region and across the country, to welcome newcomers who grow Canada's talent pool. Count on Pearson to help make this region more globally connected and to drive long-term growth in the region and the nation's economies. And just don't take our word for it. Here's what some of our key stakeholders have to say.
When you take a look at what a great airport does, it creates a piece of infrastructure that draws business and enables business to be far more competitive. And this is what Pearson does for Canada.
We are a products company, also export company. If our customer need to promote these products in their markets, we have to be there to train them, to support them, to provide that confidence that we are here. We are not just a face on a screen.
Now, the airport is not your final destination, but it is part of the journey. And making that journey seamless, enjoyable, comfortable, and hassle-free is something that Toronto Pearson does very well. And that's why it's no surprise that they're winning awards for customer service. Having
a connective airport is a necessary piece of critical infrastructure for prosperity in the 21st century. And I think there's a real opportunity for this airport to be one of the great windows on the world for Canada.
You know, yes, the impact regionally, locally is very significant, but more important than that is it's an enabler for us to attract investment from abroad and for Canadian businesses to be able to compete and succeed in a dramatically globalizing world economy.
So that's just a few comments from some of our key stakeholders. But when we say count on Toronto Pearson, we're not just talking about the global connectivity, we also talk about our connection to the region. Our airport is perfectly located to be a hub for ground transportation. I think you heard David mention that earlier. Over the past year, we have been working with all levels of government on our plan for an integrated transit hub, what we call the Regional Transit and Passenger Center. It will link rail and bus network across the western GTA and much of southern Ontario. Last April, we announced a formal agreement with Metrolinx, the regional transportation agency, where we'll join force to study how a transit center at Pearson can connect existing and future networks. This includes our current Up Express service, which is operated by Metrolinx, along with the Finch and Eglinton Crosstown LRT service, the Kitchener-Waterloo Rail Corridor, Mississauga Transitway, and other local and regional bus service. And you saw Premier Ford's recent announcement about his vision for transportation in our region. The crosstown connection into Toronto Pearson is one of the government's transit priorities. Having a transit hub in Toronto Pearson will help more people get to and from the airport. That's important. Right now, only 10% of our passengers take transit. But that's not the only reason to do this. Our region needs better transit solution for the same reason it needs a globally connected airport, to help grow the economy by making it easier for people to get where they're going, to commute to work, and tourists to visit all of the attractions that we have. Every day, 1 million vehicles go past Toronto Pearson. And as you know, many of them aren't going very fast. They're probably stuck in traffic somewhere. We need better connections for the 300,000 people who works in the airport employment zones, and also along what we call the Northern Arc that links communities like Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Markham, Durham. Everything that goes from east-west doesn't always want to go through downtown Toronto. And we're not just looking at ground transportation. 3 years ago, we launched the Southern Ontario Airport Network with 10 other regional airports, and in 2018, we added a new member, Sarnia. We work together to meet growing demand across the region, seeing how we can coordinate services to make the most of current capacity and discussing where each of us should invest for the future. We also work with municipal leaders to identify development opportunities driven by the airports in the communities. And we market our network at industry events in Canada and in the US. All of these efforts is slowly starting to bear fruit. Our partner airports are seeing increased business activity as we spread the demand across the network. While we are expanding Pearson globally, national and regional connections, we're just as focused on the flow of passengers through our airport and on the service we provide them. That means we have been adding more dining and shopping experiences. In 2018, we added another 27 restaurants and retail stores. We're just trialing an experiment on something what we call Uber Eat. Now you can use your app on your phone as you're sitting in the terminal and have food delivered to your seats from the restaurants in the Pearson Airport. Over the past year, we also continued investing in our infrastructures, additional gates. We're starting on our projects to upgrade our baggage system, all of which to get us ready for the next 10 million passengers coming through this airport. We work, as David mentioned earlier, with the Canadian Border Service Agency and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and adding more self-serve kiosks and finding ways to get our passengers through them quicker. We're also collaborating with the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority on how to meet the standard set by Pearson of 95-10. 95% of our passengers through security screening in 10 minutes or less. We work with all our partners to create a safe, healthy environment for more than 50 million passengers who travel through our airports this year, and for the 50,000 employees who's working in the airport. While we're looking at big investment strategies on how to grow over the next 5 to 10 years, we also are looking at in a much more smaller human scale to enhance the passenger experience. For example, we have partnered with St. John Ambulance to launch a therapy dog program at Toronto Pearson. Volunteers with 15 service dogs walk around both terminals, stopping to say hello to passengers and helping them feel a bit more relaxed. In 2018, passenger voted Toronto Pearson #1 in North America for the second straight year in the Global Airport Quality Survey. our quality score is the highest, not only in this continent, but also among hubs in Africa, Australia, Europe, and Latin America, which serves more than 40 million passengers. This is a big vote of approval, not for the GTAA alone, but for all the 300-some-odd companies and 50,000 staff that helps ensure this airport run efficiently, reliably, and provide a welcoming experience throughout the year. When we received this award, on behalf of the airport, I thank the ACI World that runs the survey, and I thank them for the encouragement they're giving the 50,000 employees to not only to do as well as last year, but continue improving every year so that we do better and better every year. So I talked about all the reasons to count on Toronto, to count on Pearson. But what makes our airport one of the world's mega hub? I always say, none of us wake up in the morning and say, that's what we want to be. Let's be a mega hub. Instead, I think everybody's vision, everybody look upon Pearson as a front door, not only for the region, not only for the province, but for Canada. As people working there, we're proud of it, and we like to see it continue to grow and expand. But more importantly, Canada's economy, this province's economy, and this region's economy depend upon this connectivity. And because of that demand, that allows Pearson to grow and to grow to become the mega hub it is today. So I think that's the difference. It isn't an ambition driven by GTAA. It's an ambition for the country, and that we need to meet the needs of the country because we trade around the world and because we want to be connected to the world. We have a responsibility, therefore, as David said, to help build not just the airport, but to build the connectivity and to build a stronger community around us, and, as David outlined, to protect the environment. As a city airport with flights over residential neighborhoods, we also have a responsibility to manage the impact of our aircraft noises. Last year, we launched our Noise Management Action Plan. It's a 5-year strategy built on the best practices of airports worldwide. It makes 10 commitments based on recommendations from thousands of people who live near the airport. In 2018, we begin delivering on those commitments. For example, we start talking to our carriers about how they can prioritize operating their quietest planes into Toronto Pearson. Our Quieter Fleet Incentive Program will launch next year. Another commitment is to review the role of CNAC, the Community Environment and Noise Advisory Committee. For many years, the meetings were the only way for community leaders and residents to work with us on noise impact. But when we talk to the stakeholders, they say we need a more inclusive solution and an easier way to coordinate everyone's effort on noise initiatives. So we'll replace CNAC with a much bigger platform, the Toronto Pearson Noise Management Forums. That means more frequent briefings and neighborhood discussions, and more effective public meetings and communications. The forums also have 2 new elements to them: an independent panel of industry experts to study community proposal about noises, and an external audit of our progress on noise management goals every 2 years. Most community members understand that we can't eliminate noise completely and still be the global mega hub that they expect us to be. But they have shown us that there are changes we can make to listening, to listen more closely to their concern, and whenever possible, further reduce our noise impact. There's one other responsibility I want to talk about today, and that's to gain a deeper understanding of the people who worked at Pearson. In 2017, we joined with the Airport Council of Unions to launch a 3-phase study on the airport's employee and the organization they work for. I'd like to thank the Airport Council of Unions who work with us and support all these activities. In phase 1, we set benchmarks and found things we could improve. For example, how our vendor contract affects wages and job continuity. In the past year, we became the first Canadian airport to conduct a demographic study of our workforce to get a better picture of who actually works here. The data is still being analyzed, but we'll soon be looking at it and talking to both the union and employers and see how what action plan can flow out of it. We need to get the best possible data. We need to carefully plan and then execute against the plan. But as David mentioned earlier, as an airport, we don't just plan for the next quarter or even just the next year, but for 10 to 20 years in the future. As we put Toronto's Pearson's long-term strategy into action, we have the advantage of a great team here. I want to thank all my management colleagues for the tremendous knowledge, skill, and passion they bring to their jobs every day. We also benefit from the guidance of a very strong board led by David Wilson, who will be stepping down in a few minutes, which is why now I can be abusive. But he says some very kind things about me in his remarks. But as you heard, this is also our last annual meeting as chair. So, David, the insight and judgment you and the board brought to us in your role as the chair, and more importantly, the deep knowledge of business and corporate governance you have strengthened GTAA and helped shape our vision for the future. His impact on this airport will be felt for many years to come. Thank you, David. And finally, I'm sure you all think I'm too long-winded already. I want to thank the 1,800 employees of the GTAA and the 50,000 people who work together at the airport. Because of their dedication, energy, and talent, millions and millions of passengers from across Canada and around the world know they can count on Toronto Pearson. Thank you very much.
Well done, Howard. Now let's get Ian Clark, our CFO and VP Finance, up here.
Thank you, Hillary. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm proud to say that Toronto Pearson is continuing its journey to become a world-class mega hub airport that serves regional and national aviation demand while operating in a way that our passengers, employees, stakeholders, and communities can count on. Our financial efforts are focused on financial sustainability, managing airport investments, aviation growth, and cash flow generation. In 2018, we continued to make significant inroads on these goals. Management was successful in delivering on our plans in 2018. We reported net income before early retirement debt charge and hedge loss of $145 million, representing growth of 29% from 2017 net income of $112.2 million, a record year. Revenue grew by $84 million, largely as a result of increased non-aeronautical revenues and passenger traffic growth. Operating expenses increased over 2017 due to continued investments in the passenger experience. The improved experience resulted in Toronto Pearson being recognized as the best large airport in North America for the second year in a row by ACI. Interest costs before early retirement charge and hedge loss decreased by 9% due to optimizing our financing sources, including retiring debt early and replacing it with lower cost debt, financed through medium-term notes and our commercial paper program. We aim to shift the mix of revenue towards non-aeronautical sources so that we are less reliant on traditional aeronautical revenues. The growth in non-aeronautical revenue provides us greater flexibility to realize our vision. Our two-till rate-setting methodology charges aeronautical rates based on actual cost incurred. Looking at revenue, you can see that aeronautical revenues in 2018 have increased compared to 2017. This increase is due to the continued increases in aviation activity. The total amount collected through AIF, airport improvement fees, increased due to annual passenger traffic growth of 5%. Most notably, non-aeronautical revenues increased by over 11%, which grew faster than our passenger growth of 5%. This is due to factors including higher parking volumes and the rollout of our digital advertising program. Stabilizing rates is one of the best tools we have used to grow traffic at Pearson. The focus on the bottom line has enabled us to reduce or hold constant the rates we charge to the air carriers for the past 11 years. In fact, posted air carrier rates are now about 25% less compared to Toronto Pearson rates in 2006. The reduced rates that we initially put in place in 2013 have now been frozen for 7 years. This provides certainty to our airline partners, enables long-range planning, and encourages development of route options for passengers at Pearson. We continue to manage operating costs with an eye to the bottom line. As shown on this graph, our operating costs are growing at a slower rate than traffic growth. In 2018, passenger growth outpaced cost growth by 53%, as indicated by the blue line. This has been achieved through technology innovations and more efficient use of our existing resources, while continually focusing on the quality of our services. You will note that there's been a gradual increase in operating expenses over the last few years as we reinvest our savings into improving airport operations, improve passenger and baggage processing, and managing the passenger growth within our existing capacity constraints. This is a financial approach that enables Toronto Pearson to grow sustainably. Debt. Our outstanding debt has declined from a high in 2011 of about $7.3 billion to $6.3 billion. This represents a reduction of $1 billion over 7 years. You will note that we are taking active steps to manage the organization's cost of debt via our commercial paper program. Combining 2017 and 2018, as noted in the red, we have invested $465 million in property acquisitions, which will allow for the continued airport development and related activities. Interest cost, excluding debt retirement and hedge loss, were reduced by $28 million in 2018 from 2017. Reducing our interest expenses provides us flexibility to invest in the airport to enhance our service offerings, improve the passenger experience, and manage our rates and charges. The commercial paper program was introduced in May 2017 as an alternative source to fund the maturity of medium-term notes at lower rates. Commercial paper also provides the benefit of hedging the negative impact of funding short-term reserve accounts. During 2018, we incurred debt retirement charges for retiring over $500 million of debt that was charged. We had an interest rate of 5.9%, 5.96% on that debt, and we replaced it with much lower debt with a cost of 3.26%. Rating agencies have rewarded the corporation's efforts to reduce debt. Standard & Poor's rating remains at A+, Moody's ratings is AA3. These ratings are supported by the reduction in debt and the lower net debt per passenger, which has declined from $342 in 2014 to $241 in 2018. These strong ratings benefit the organization by lowering borrowing cost and improving our access to new funding should it be needed. Aviation growth is an important enabler for the rest of our business, as with it, we gain the benefits of scale, enabling us to continue to expand our service offerings. Customer service improvements and improved passenger processing both encourage this growth. Timely and efficient capital expenditures must be made to accommodate the growth while we continue to monitor passenger service and processing activities. As you can see, traffic grew 5% from 2017 to a record of 49.5 million passengers in 2018. In 2018, 2.3 million more passengers traveled through Pearson. Since 2010, we have added nearly 18 million annual passengers. We achieved even growth in all sectors, but growth is being led by international activity at 6.7%. In 2018, 13 net new international routes were added. Capital expenditures. 2018 saw continued capital spending to support growth and passenger flow. These near-term capital priorities are funded through yearly cash flows rather than financed through the issuance of debt. Investments in our real estate properties are financed through new debt. We continue to focus on several ongoing major investments through 2018. For example, Terminal 1 Pier G, including expanding narrow-body aircraft parking and apron, and improved passenger facilities and retail options. And T3 check-in and hold room upgrades to meet demand. On the horizon, we have undertaken design studies and planning with respect to the following potential redevelopment and expansion projects to meet future demand. Terminal 1 expansion to support future increases in traffic, and baggage handling work to improve system reliability and meet future transfer baggage processing requirements. Prior to making decisions to invest in new large-scale capital infrastructure, management will first optimize the use of existing facilities so that we can unlock their full potential. Capital funding was also used for acquisition of investment properties in the airport area. Asset acquisitions of $178 million were made in 2018, bringing the total up to $465 million. These assets are being held for future development. Looking a little deeper into non-aeronautical revenues, this chart shows the success we've been having with non-aeronautical revenue growth. In 2018, we continue to have solid growth in all non-aeronautical revenue segments, including an 18.7% increase in rental revenues to $133 million, an 11.7% increase in concessions revenues to $144 million. This concession revenue growth was the result of opening or redeveloping 27 new retail locations, as well as the addition of new and enhanced products and service selection. Rental revenues have grown in part from investments in commercial properties. Non-aeronautical revenue represented 34% of our revenues in 2018, compared to 24% in 2010. This continues to demonstrate our competitiveness as we reduce our dependency on aeronautical sources. To close, we continued the trend of growing net income before early retirement debt charge and hedge loss, and demonstrating financial responsibility and prudence. Continued growth in traffic and revenue has provided the resources to invest in improved facilities and the passenger experience. A number of major capital projects are in various stages of approval and development. As a management team, we are excited about continuing our journey to be a world-class mega hub airport that Canada can count on. Thank you.